Welcome to the third part of this series of tutorials on Spring Framework. Today we talk about Spring MVC. MVC stands for Model View Controller and it's a pattern for developing applications. However, I'm not going to go into details what is MVC. I'm just going to show you how to develop a simple MVC app using Spring Toolsuite. We start by creating a new Spring project as usual. Name it MVC or Hello MVC and select a Spring MVC as project type, and it will also ask us to give the default package name, top level package name. So we use the domain reversed and give the application name here, for example. Now MVC applications require a server. They're server-based applications, so this one is going to run on the Pivotal server, which comes with this Spring Toolsuite IDE. It's running here, connected to the IDE. And this project looks similar to any Maven project, so any Spring project using Maven. There are a couple of things that were generated here. One is a home controller. Another one is under this source, we go to main, web app, webinf, and views. We have also a view called home. By default, the Spring uses JSP for views, for viewing something. And well, you could use another view technology, but we're just going to use JSP. So if you look at the home controller, you can see that it starts with the controller annotation, which makes this bean a controller bean, and then it has one method that would serve a get request to this path, so basically the root path of this application, and it would return this home view. This is a logical name for the home view, and it will be translated to home JSP by the Spring Framework. Okay, and this code, it's actually just some sample code. We can even erase it. What it does, it gets the current date, it formats it, and it will add it to the model, and the model is passed to the view, and the view can use the model. So in this case, the model is passed as the second argument to this method. And if you look at the view, you can see that we access this server time attribute of the model using this special syntax that you can use in JSP. So this is where we set the server time. And now if we run it, we can right click, run on the server. You can see the log is appearing here in the console, and it will also open you a new web browser. So right now this is the URL, it has the port 8080. And hello MVC is the path for the application. This is the last segment of your package name. And now you can see that this is the output of the view, so of the JSP file. And you can see the time here. Time on the server is this time. And you can see exactly like this. Okay, but now let's create in this home controller a couple of other endpoints, so a couple of other methods that can be called using just a normal web browser. And what I'm going to first do is to write a simple hello method, which is quite similar to this first one, except that we are not going to use the locale parameter. We are going to use our own custom parameter that we get from the URL. It also takes a model as the first parameter, and the second parameter is we call it a request parameter. Okay, we need to import it first. Now this request parameter annotation is going to define a parameter that you can write in the URL after the question mark. So when you have a get request where you write the question mark and then some parameter name equals value, then this is one of those parameters. And the name for this, or the value for this parameter, we can just call it n. So it's like, actually let's use the double quote. So this will be appearing in the URL. And then next we can also define here a default value, which will be used in case n is not set. So if nobody is setting the n, we can just say anonymous. This is a default value. And then after request param, we actually give the Java parameter here for the method. Let's call it string name. And now we have this model here that the Spring prepares for us, and we can update the model. Model has many methods. We are going to use add attribute. It's string value. String is the key, and any object is the value. So it's a key value pair. And we can give the key as a name, and the value would be the name. So we take it from here and just pass it to the model. Of course we could do some processing here, but we just pass it to the model and return the name of the view that we want to show. Here it was home, so let's make a new view called hello and return that. And this is now just a Java method, so we still need to make it a method that can be accessed by a web browser. So we do the request mapping also here. The same here, value equals, and now because we already use the root for one get method, we cannot use the same path. So for one value, for one path, we can only use one get. We cannot use two gets. So I'm going to specify here, not equals equals, but I'm going to specify here slash hello. So we have a different path, and method is also get. So we can do a normal browser lookup for this page or for this resource. Okay, that's it. Of course there should be a comma in between those. And now let's have a look at the view. So now that we have this thing done here, I'm just going to make that a bit smaller. We have this one here, and we are returning a hello view. So we just going to take this home JSP, copy it, call it hello JSP, and then just change the contents. Instead of saying the time on the server is, we say hello and then the name of the person, like that. And this name is coming from, of course, this attribute. So we take the attribute name and we can access it from this JSP file using this syntax. Okay, so let's try to go here. Now when you save it, it will deploy it automatically. It will upload it to the server automatically after a while. So if we would write here now hello as the end of to the end of this URL, we should see hello anonymous. Okay, this is the default value. Now how can we change it? We can add here question mark n equals John. So this n is referring to this here, request parameter. So request parameter means this parameter that we write at the end of the URL with the question mark. Now it says hello John. We can also change it to Jane, and it always changes the name. Okay, so that's one way of passing data to the controller method. We can use a get request parameter or query parameter. It's also called query parameter. Now another way to do it is to use so-called path variable that we would write to the end of the path in a bit similar way than we did with the previous one, but without the question mark. So let's write another method. I'm just going to copy it here because it's very similar. Just call it by instead. And instead of request parameter, we don't actually write that. We just write. Let's take model out of there because I do something else instead. I call it path variable. And we import that one too. And now we are going to also define a request mapping here with the value. But now the value is going to be a bit different. Again, we cannot use the same path because we have hello here and get. So we cannot use hello, but we can say bye. And to use path variable, we define here with these braces, we can define here name. Now, interestingly, this name will be mapped to this variable. So whatever string we put here after bye, it will end up to this variable. And then we can use it in the method. So here we don't actually have a model because I took it away. I wanted to show you another way how we can pass data, how we can use the model. So one way is to use the model here as a parameter. A Spring Framework will automatically assign it there. Another way is to manually create it and call it model and view. There is a class called model and view that contains both model and view. And now you can use either or. You can use this one or this one. It doesn't matter. It's up to your preference. We just create a new model and view, and here we can, as a constructor parameter, we can give the view name. So for example, we can say it bye. And then in model we use the MV now, and it's there is a different method called add object, not add attribute, add object. I don't know why they chose a different name, but they did. Now at the same purpose, we add there with some key, we add there some value, in this case the name. And instead of returning hello, we return bye. Sorry, we don't return bye, we return MV, of course. So we return this one, model and view. So now we go again here to the view section, and we are going to copy this hello JSP, call it bye JSP. So it's going to correspond to this method here, and just call it bye name. So instead of hello, we say bye. Okay. Now we have the JSP file. We have the controller that is using the JSP view bye, and now we can try to run it. So let's go back to this web browser, and instead of hello, let's write there bye and /John. And we say we have bye John. We can also change it to chain, and we get bye chain. So now this one can be anything. This is now path variable. It comes after / at the end of the path. And now if we leave it empty, we get error because there is no such resource. There's only a resource that has bye and something after bye. There is no resource in bye. Okay, so these are the two ways of passing data using the get method. Now a third way is to use post method, and of course with the post we can send just about any kind of data, any MIME types. I'm just going to show you how to send data from a very simple HTML form. So I will just copy this one again. This time call it cheers. So another greeting method and different path. Now value is cheers. Oh, by the way, I forgot to write here method, but it uses get by default, but we can be explicit and write method equals request method get. Here the method is request method post. So this is another HTTP method. It's usually used to pass some data to the server. All right, and now we don't use path variable. just use normal name. And let's just to show some variety, we can also add another parameter there called age. So we have now name and age, so we can add more than one. And in this case, I'm also going to use model and view. Again, you could put model here instead. You don't need to use model and view, but I prefer this style, so I use it here. The view that we are going to use is cheers, and we are going to add there two objects. We add their name and we add their age. So both values will be passed to the cheers view. So I'm going to copy this by again and call it cheers. And here I will just tell to the user cheers name, you are age years old. So we use the same syntax for accessing the age parameter. Okay, so now the cheers is done. The only thing we need is now a way of calling this method. It's a post method. So if we go to the browser and try cheers, it will not work because it says get is not supported. It only supports post. And how to do post? Well, the easiest way is to create an HTML form. And we can do the HTML form, for example, in this home JSP that shows the server time. So here perhaps underneath it we can write form, and then here we should put the action. So which website is going to be called, and this is the name of the app, hello MVC / cheers. This is what our path, cheers, hello MVC cheers, because we have cheers here. Okay, and in addition to action, we also define what method we use, and this case is post. And inside the form we use name and then input. Now this name, this is important, this name here, it should match this parameter value. See name and name. Let's have a break, line break there. And also age, same thing for the age, input, name, age. Again, the same name that the parameter. And finally, we have input type submit, so we can submit it. Right. That's a very simple HTML form. If we load it up here, so we go to the home view, this is the home application view, we get the server time and we get our form that we created. So let's say John 25, let's see what happens. Okay, it says cheers John, you are 25 years old. Now let's go back, change it to Jane 65. Now Jane is 65. So now we pass data from form to home controller to this cheers method using mapping between the parameter name and age and the form fields name and age. Now if I make a mistake, let's say I put here name 2 instead. So let's see what happens. We go back to the form, we refresh it and put here some name, John 25. You see, name is missing now. It works, but name is missing, it's empty. Because this name is not compatible with this one. So they must be exactly the same. Okay, let me show you one more thing. Like if you have a big form with a lot of fields, you don't always want to add so many parameters here. Instead, we can make a new class called person, and the person class can have name and age. And of course, you can add more variables. We can generate getters and setters. We can also add constructor and so on instead of default constructor. But now the point is that Spring is also smart enough to map the form fields into an object as long as the types and the names here are the same than you use in the form. So now we have name and age here. We have also name and age here. And in the home controller, what we can do is, instead of writing this one, we can write person here. But this is not enough. We need something called model attribute to actually, where is it? Here. We need to tell the Spring that, okay, this one is going to be mapped to that HTML form. So we get it from the model. And now, because we have only person here, obviously we cannot have name and age. So this one is also going to be changed a bit. So we add a new object called person. And consequently, we have to go back to the cheers to use a person instead of name and age. So now you also see how you can use an object instead of a simple variable. So we go to cheers, where we used the name and age before. We use person.name, person.age. So we use the person object now here instead of individual variables. So let's see how this works. We are going to go back to the form, give here John 25, submit, and we have a person object passed to this cheers, and it's parsed accordingly. We can also write there Jack, so you can see that actually it wasn't the previous one. Jack is 25, it works perfectly. So now you have seen how to use simple MVC application, how to define it, how to define different kinds of methods, both get and post, how to get data from these different methods. And there are still many more things to learn, for example, how to get JSON or XML data using a RESTful web service, but we will go into that in the next video. Thanks for watching.